right, church. So what we're going to do today is jump into John 21. We were there yesterday in the devotional, and it was where the guys were out fishing. And if you continue on reading in that account, you'll see that Jesus is standing on the shore and he's making breakfast and he calls them over. And there's this conversation that happens between Jesus and Peter. And we're all pretty familiar with that encounter where Jesus asks him 3 different times if he loves him. And in those responses that happen back and forth. And then at the climax of that dialogue between Peter and Jesus, Jesus tells Peter that, you know, when he gets older, he's going to die a death that is not by his choice, and it's going to be forced upon him. And we know by church tradition that it is told that Peter was crucified as well for his faith in Jesus Christ. And according to church tradition, that Peter requested to be crucified upside down because he was not worthy to be crucified like Jesus, which is, you know, pretty awesome that he would have that heart even in the face of his death. But let's just continue on with this for just a moment here. In the latter part of that conversation, after Jesus explains to Peter that he is going to, you know, die a death that he has no choice of, he says this to him. Then he says, "Follow me." Peter turned around and saw behind them the disciple Jesus loved, the one who had leaned over to Jesus during the Last Supper and asked, "Lord, who will betray you?" So he's referencing John. This is how John references himself. He never calls his name out in the gospel that he writes. He's speaking of himself. So let's hear what happens here. So Peter's like, "Hey, what about him, Lord?" And Jesus replied, "If I want him to remain alive until I return, what is that to you? As for you, follow me." So, you know, I don't think this is like a negative response by Peter. Peter just heard that he's going to die a death that, you know, he has no choice in. And he's like, well, what's going to happen to John? And this is the response that Jesus gives, and the one that I want us to be challenged with today. You know, oftentimes when we're called by God to deal with certain things in our life, or the Lord is honing in on us about something, you know, we can have a tendency to wonder, what about them? And today, as we do our devotional, the challenge of our day is to let's just cut out the what about them in our mind and our heart. Like, when we're doing stuff for the Lord, why do we care if someone else is or isn't doing it? If you're called by God to do it, man, and do it with all that you have. But let's not worry about what somebody else is or isn't doing. Because if you're doing it for the Lord and the Lord has asked you to do it, then that's who you're doing it for. Let's not worry about the others. Let's make sure that we're hearing and following Jesus for ourselves. Let's be his church. God bless you today.